Welcome to another tutorial by Michael Allar. Now this tutorial will be about converting our current codebase to the March build. Now if you've already been using the March build this whole time, go ahead and completely ignore it. But if you're not, if you're using the February build like me, then this will be a pretty important step onto matching your codebase with ours, because the reason I'm upgrading to the March build is that it offers FBX import support, and FBX support is pretty important when all our modelers and stuff can just export directly to FBX instead of having to go with ActorX and setting up all these ActorX stuff and digesting animations and all this weird stuff that I don't like doing and they don't like doing. So it's important to kind of give the rest of your team what you want. Now, other than that, I wouldn't really upgrade to the March build because I'm just tired of migrating my code every month to a new build, but some features require it. Alright, so first thing we have is in our build, or whatever you called it. For me, it's called The Hunt. Remember, I'm working on a project called The Hunt. So, but this is based off the February build, and you can see that before I formatted my hard drive a long time ago, I used to have a UDK folder for every build. That way I can go back and take what I need from builds that either broke things or added new things and took away things, etc. And so, but I recently formatted, so I only have February and the March build. But then we also have Hunt. These two are just static, clean installs. I didn't change anything to them. I don't want to. These are just for reference. But this one here, this March build, kind of what we need in it. The first thing what I do is, just so I can keep a clean copy, just in case I screw this up, is I make a second copy of the March build, and it doesn't take too long. Well, I guess depending on your hard drive and whatnot. Yeah. But as that's copying, what I do is I look at the Hunt, my folder, and the only folder that really matters code-wise is, if you put everything in the same package, which you should have, is the folder that all your code goes in. Now for me, that's UDK game. Now, I did not know that Epic would create UDK base, because back in the December build was when I started coding and all this, UDK base didn't exist. It was until the February build that UDK base. So I just created UDK game just so that people will go, oh, this is a UDK game, not a UT game. But now there's kind of a confusion there. So UDK base, that's Epic code. UDK game, that's our code we're using for this project. Now, if you named your package for your code something else, great. Keep it like that. That's good. And more power to you. But if you named a UDK game, just make sure that you're thinking about that and know exactly what's going on there. So I'm just going to copy this UDK game class, right, or UDK game folder. And now that my extra copy here is done, I'm just going to rename this Hunt New. And I'm going to go in here. I'm going to paste this right in here. Boom. And that's my code base. My code is now there, right? So now I'm going to go. Next thing we gotta do is there's some config files we have to change, and I'm just going to take all these default config files, right? I'm just going to copy them. Leave the UT ones there. The UT ones are pointless because they get automatically generated every time you run it. And I'm just going to delete all these. And actually, I'm going to look through a quick thing. I don't see any of these INI files that are different than or any new files, I should say. I want to take a double check. How many of these files are there? There's 14 files. Alright. In the new build, there are 14, and they all look kind of similarly named. So, alright. So, we'll paste these right in here. Copy and replace. Sure, there might be some new settings, but if I don't have those new settings, it should automatically generate those settings, because those settings are also should be, I believe, in the engine config. So if there's any new engine functionality, it should be put in there and it should propagate. If there's any new UT functionality, I don't care because this is not a UT game. So yeah, therefore we're just able to do that. Now the last thing we gotta do is, okay, we don't touch binaries and we don't touch engine. We do touch binaries if you have custom DLLs, but we haven't done that yet. But so yeah, now that binaries, development, and engine are done, because you don't ever touch engine, you have UT game, and now you have to add. We already changed the config for what we want, but in case you've added any localization, I don't think you've done any of that yet. But in my case, I have, so I'm gonna port my localization stuff over here. Just the files that I created, not any of their files. Once I say, yeah, but once again, you might not have any localization files, so don't even worry about that. Unless you know specifically you have localization files. Now, there's also a script folder in UTGame, but that's for compiled scripts, and you'll always recompile your script every time you make a change, so you don't have to touch those. And you might have a source folder if you follow my scheme of things, which is this is like the source of every asset I make. So I'm going to copy that over, but then again, you also might not have that. It's just the way my thing is organized. And that doesn't take too long. See, at this point, all you're doing is copying stuff you made. Content. Now, content's important. Now, back a long time ago, I'm pretty sure I stated, but I might not have, in the content folder, it was usually all of Epic's content, right? But because for UDK licensing and things, I'm not allowed to use Epic content. So what I did was I renamed the content folder UT content. Then I made another folder called content in here, and I put that UT content in content. That way, when I open content, I have a folder called UT content, and that's all of Epic stuff. And everything else that's outside that folder, that's my stuff, or that's my team stuff, or our team stuff. Yes, and that makes it easier to see which assets you have in the content browser are Epic stuff, which are yours, what not to touch, what to touch, and that way you still have your content, so some of the code things will work. Like, there's some times while you're coding that you need to use assets that you just don't have, so you have to go back and use Epic assets just to test and things like that. For example, if you didn't model your M16, then you can go back and use one of the UT Epic guns, like a link gun or whatever, anything. But the point is, yeah, this is how I've done it, and you might not have done it, but because another benefit of doing it this way is that now I can take all this and I can unselect UT content and I can hit copy. And now when I migrate it to the new build, I'm just, see, this is how content usually looks. I'm just going to go ahead and rename this to UT content. Or did I type that twice? And I'm going to delete these ref shaders and these global shaders and escape mouse that thing, just because sometimes they can cause trouble, especially if you have two of them. So I'm going to delete these because we have our own, and they're going to be rebuilt anyway. So now that we have that, I'm going to create a new folder, content. Move all my Epic content here, so that way we're using the new Epic content. And then I'm going back to, I should have that still copied. So I'm just going to go to content, I'm going to hit paste. And there's my assets right there, boom. And that is how you migrate from one build to the other, in this case, February to March. Now that we have all our files in place, I'm going to rename this the hunt fed. And I'm just going to rename this the hunt because that's the current version. And it stays nicely on top. So now I'm going to go to binaries, Unreal front end. And it's going to load this up. And actually, I have to do a quick change for my video settings because for some reason the editor crashes if I'm in SLI mode. Because I have two video cards. And I have to disable it every time I want to use the editor, which is really lame. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pause this. while it does that. Sorry about that, but yeah, SLI kind of breaks my editor. Not only doesn't load the editor, when I load it, it actually crashes my entire computer if I don't disable SLI. I don't know if that's a personal thing or if that's a UDK thing, but whatever, I have to do it. Alright, so now that we have the front end open, all we're doing is clicking make so that we can compile our code that we added and see if it plays nice with the March build. And now it's calling UT game. Just always takes a while on a clean compile. And now we have warnings, but it did succeed, so we are good. And these warnings, well, the first warning is something that you guys don't have, HT Online subsystem. But now our next warning is HT weapon. Warning, ammo count conflicts with a previously defined field in UDK weapon. It looks like ammo count is no longer, like it's been pushed up to UDK weapon. So let's check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and open up on Codex, and because I named it's still the same path but different build, I should be able to rebuild it, and it should pull up these new classes with all the new data. And while that's doing that, we'll take a look at these other warnings. Game prefix obscures game prefix defined in base class. It looks like they're pushing a lot of stuff that we had to steal from back to their upper classes. So we can go back and we can take some of that stuff out. Huh. Okay. It's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's like, we already did it. Why are they doing it for us? But I'm not complaining. Alright, so, and then the last one is another HT Online subsystem, which you guys don't have. That's for connecting to a master server and joining servers and things like that. Alright, so first problem is HT weapons. Let's go find HT weapon. And here it is. And you'll see that it extends UDK weapons. Let's hit UDK weapon. And look at that. There is an ammo count. Which means what exactly? There is a variable called ammo count, but at the same time, there is nothing in here that uses ammo count. So therefore, all they did was create a variable and not create any code to use that variable. But they did also create replication. So, and they include a hit enemy thing. So if you go back to our code, go ahead and open up. You can edit with whatever you want. Because of the fact that they have no functions here, pull up the property inspector. And see, all they did was declare variables. There's no functions, which means these variables aren't being used in one way or another. They might be referenced by other things, but they're not being used. So, in this class, which means we still have all our ammo count logic that we've already built, it still has to be there. The only thing is we have to change where our ammo count's declared. Let's go ahead and open up our HT weapon class. And let's just take out our ammo declaration because it's now pushed up to the other class. Now there's no max ammo like we have, so we still have to keep that. Now what else do we have here? Shot cost. Do they have shot cost and player view offset? They do not. So we still have to keep those. And this checking shot cost. No, we are good. They don't have that declared anywhere. So because of that, we can keep that code. Now, there's an uncodex bug that you can't move your window to the right. It only gets smaller. It's really annoying. So if you ever have that, what I do is I close my property inspector. I scale this way over here, bring back the property inspector, and then I bring it back down to where I want. Just a heads up. Alright, so now that we have that solved, and save that. Go back to our compiler. Go ahead and click Make. Right click, scroll to end if it doesn't keep up with what's going on. Bad variable ammo count and replication definition. That means we forgot to take out a replication block because that replication block, as I already said earlier, is already in UDK weapon now, right here. So go figure. Go ahead and compile again, make sure that warning goes away. Now our next warning that you guys will have is UDK game, line 13, game type prefix obscures game type prefix to find a base class game info. Let's take a look at that. So let's check out our game class, which is under info, game info. Now you guys will, some of you will say, why am I using uncodex when I have alt get real here? Well, this package tree kinda doesn't work for me half the time, so yeah. Anyways, I like this interface better. So now we have this. Check out our game info class, UDK game. And notice this is our game type prefix that we had to make earlier in order to get our prefix switching working. Let's see what they added at game info. Game info. Let's see default type prefixes. Default map prefixes. Here we go, default map prefix, game type prefix, let's check that out. And game type, where is game type prefix? Do not see this anywhere here. Oh, structs, game type prefix, there we go. There we go, and it's got some additional features and stuff. Alright, so let's see if they actually implement that code. Just gonna go ahead and open up, UDK game. We have set game type. This handles all the code that we did to set game type. So let's see if they have that function. Set game type. Let's take a look at it. Return default class. Alright, so they have these variables, but they do not implement that functionality in set game type. So we are still good, and we have to keep that function for us, or we have to keep that code there so that we can pretty much use it. So let's go back to our code. They already have default map prefixes and default game prefix. Let's go ahead and delete all this. And I'll go back to the top. Yeah, it should say default map prefixes. Yep, same exact thing we've been using. So we'll just use their variables instead. And now that we can hit save, and we can go to our front end and hit compile. And what else we got? We got UDK game import failed for a default property because property is config. Check to see if listed in properties. It should only be listed as specific. Okay. They moved default map prefixes to a config file. Okay. I didn't know that if it was a config variable, it was forced to be in an INI file. That's really lame. But in order to do that, that ain't a problem. That's not too bad of a problem. In order to do that, we go to our. I was going to go into this later, actually, but now that we kind of have to go into it, when you have anything that says config, you have to, and the thing next to it like this, we have to open up that INI file and then basically give it that data to the INI file. And in order to do that, just copy this default properties block right here. Save this, and then we can go to the hunt, UT game, config, and then always delete all your UT config files first before you get your default, because UT gets generated after you change the default. I mean, gets generated if you don't have them in. Alright, so I'm just, instead of creating a new INI file, I'm going to go ahead and put it in default game because that sounds like a logical place to put it. And you see there's a bunch of UT game stuff here anyway, so they're doing the same thing. I'm going to go ahead and right after all this engine stuff, right before it says UT game, I'm going to go ahead and type udkgame.udkgame, and then I'm going to type, I'm just going to paste default properties 0 equal prefix block. But instead, I think how it works, yeah, you don't specify an index. You just add it like this, and yeah, by looking at the code here, where it says game specific map cycles, they don't index their code. They just add an equal sign. Apparently, that adds it to the array. So now we have that. This should add a config. This should change the class udkgame, not udkgame, which is exactly what our game input class is, and it will assign this to default map prefixes instead of doing it in the code. You'll go over this later again when we go actually into making configs that we want, but just to get this playing nicely with everything, you kind of have to do this. So why don't we make this code again? And now you should have no warnings. I have 2 warnings because of HT-Online subsystem is trying to find a DLL that doesn't exist. And that's what I said earlier about the binaries folder. If you have any custom DLLs, wherever they're at, it's under binary, oh, go to the fed build, under user code, so you can copy that user code, go to the binaries. You won't have any of this, but unless I said you already have DLL files you've already used, and copy and replace. Now that I have that DLL there, you go ahead and make. There we go, no warnings. So actually it's not even recompiling because I didn't make any changes. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete something and re-add it, make again, so it forces to recompile that entire thing. And we're good. So no warnings, that's where we should be at. So in order to test it's still working to see if our class is still being ran, because now we took out that default map properties block, and we added it to default game. Right now, UDK game is a default class, but if we have an HT map, it should load the hunt game. So I'm going to see if I have any debug code in the hunt game that will tell me if it's... Yeah, the hunt game changes our name to new player. Alright, so that's easy to find out. So in order to do this, we go ahead and go to our front end, and I'm going to load a map with DM Airsoft. Now I'm going to load a map with HT front without the dash, that way it loads UDK game. I'm going to hit launch. And it should start up just fine. Should start up just fine. And it will start up just fine. I'm going to pause this while it loads. Okay, so am I recording right now? Alright. It turns out that it took a long time to load because I had to recompile my shaders because we deleted those rev shader caches. But I like to delete them because it causes more problems to leave them there during a migration build, or during migrating to a new build, than to just rebuild them. It took me like a whole 5-10 minutes just to load this. But at the same time, once it's loaded, you will find that your game will load. It'll show the UE3 logo. It will load this type of map thing with the spinning icon, and then it will crash. So, oh, it's not crashing. It's still loading. My bad. Okay, I'm gonna pause this until it loads or something. Oh, and what do you know? It loaded. Cool. My HUD is now offset, but other than that, it loaded. And so this is my game info class, because I know it is, because this wouldn't show up without it. And so I'm just going to go ahead and... Oh, my exit button broke. Whatever. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and click on and close this. So this is showing that our game is working. It just takes a really long time the first time around to load to compile all the shaders again. But if I click launch now, it should come up pretty quickly. See, boom, there it is. It's just that first time you load it, it has to recompile the shaders if you delete those rough shader caches, and I highly recommend doing so, because there was one time when I believe it was January to February, I think is what it was I didn't delete the shader caches. I was like, I don't need to delete these. I don't want to wait that long to load, you know. I just want to get ready to start coding again. But it turns out that later that month, we had a few materials that were redone by some artists on our team for the hunt, and they would not update. Like, they were new assets in the packages, but when in game, they would not be the new materials no matter what we did. We could not figure out why. So I deleted these ref shader caches, and it fixed it. It started using the new stuff, and it was something weird. The cache just would not update. So that's why I delete them, because it just saves so much trouble. And if you're working on a team, you don't have to tell your entire team, oh, delete these files. Oh, you have to wait for it to recompile. And if they have slow machines, it's going to take even longer for them. So it's best just to delete them the first time and then rebuild them on your computer and then send it out to all your team members if you have a team. Now, if I want to load up my HT first level just to see if my second game info class is working, which relies on the config file to work. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up by just loading HT-first level. And here we go. And I'm going to just say something. And it turns out that my HUD is broken, but that was the case a long time ago. Just want to give myself our weapon that we've been using. That's not our weapon name. What is our weapon name? We go to our code. If this isn't working, then we might have a problem here. Okay, UDK game. HT. That's right. It's not giving me a weapon that we've already worked on. This is not cool. So I'm going to quit this. And I'm going to open up our log files. That was not a folder button. Alright. Log files, which is under your UDK directory. Come on. Under UT game, under logs. And I'm going to go to launch.log. If you look at the time, that time is right now. So that's the log that we're using. This is all just stuff that loads me. Now, so the game class is UDK game. Okay, that's not right because we should have switched to HT or the hunt game. So to fix that, what's going on here? Open scene, script warning, give weapon, access none, pawn. What is going on? It looks like start abort script warning. Server abort for me start player. Oh, wow! I didn't even think about that. If you load our game, we are floating. Yeah, that's because we're not spawning, and they didn't give us a weapon because we are not alive. The reason behind this is, where is it? We go to our game code. Now for the hunt game, you might have put this in EDK game. We have these flags here, but apparently, let's check to see if these are now config values. So I'm going to go ahead and go to game info. And let's look at one of these tags, B restart level. Let's go ahead and look at B restart level. B restart level, where are you? It's a boolean. Okay, that's not a config. Then what's going on here? What is going on here? And not server, abort from restart player. Okay, script warning. And not abort from restart player. Okay, let's take a look at restart player. We don't have a restart player in the hunt game. So let's take a look at UDK game, and we don't have one there. So let's take a look at game info. And let's look at restart player. And this is a warning that we get, which means not server. You restart player, restart a player. So what's going on here? If B restart level is true, but in our code it is false. Alright, let's take a look at this log again, see if we can get more info. Is that game class is UDK game? That's bad. That means our set game type is not loading the hunt game. Why is that not running? Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and go into UDK game. I want to take the set game type and I want to put right in here grave log. Yeah, that key, I believe that's called grave, or is that tilde? I know tilde and grave, they're both, one of them's the squiggly line, one of them's a little dash line. So that button, log, and I'm just going to type in hell. We are setting our game type. This will just show that, you know, hey, our function is being ran. Because this function might not be ran anymore in the new March build. I don't know. Because they've already ported variables up to the next thing. I don't know what's going on here. So I'm just going to go ahead and run, compile this, and launch this. And this is what happens every time you migrate. Something breaks and you have to go in and fix it. Now that our game is loaded, we're still floating. I'm just going to quit. And go to launch log. And let's see what's going on here. Script log, we are setting our game type. Game class is UDK game. Now what's going on here? That means it's running this function, but it's not returning the hunt game. So that means our default map types are not working. And that's bad. So I'm going to go ahead and put a log here. I'm going to put a log right there. Say we are not HT front end, because that function above us returns if we are. Then I want to go ahead and put a log in this for loop. Now what this will do is it'll tell me going through I can't type today. Going through a iteration of default map prefixes. And that will be displayed for every time we loop that for loop. And it should be at least once if we're adding it to our config file and if that's working. I'm going to make our compile. And here we go. Let's launch it and see what happens. This won't fix anything, but it will log us that information. Now that we're in our game, go ahead and quit it. Go ahead and pull up our log file. Just close our other log files. There we go. And we are not HT frontend, but you see it is not iterating that for loop, which means there is nothing in default map prefixes for us to loop through. which means our config file is wrong. So let's fix that. Alright? Alright. Okay, so apparently I paused it and I did a little bit of testing to speed this up. But apparently this default map prefixes I can't get it to work under this tag. I'm not sure why. Because I've done it before and it used to work, but if I move this line up to engine.gameinfo and just config the gameinfo class, it works just fine. So I'm doing that. I can worry about that later because it's not really important right now. And it's not that big of a deal. So I just want to save this, put this in engine.gameinfo, and then launch it. And you will see that as soon as it loads, boom, you can jump around and you're not floating and you can give yourself a weapon. And we are now exactly where we were at before this, but using the March build instead of the February build, so that our artist can now use .fbx, which I find pretty annoying to have to do, but you know, sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. So, now, so there'll be a written tutorial, which will just basically post the code and what had to be changed in order for it to get compatible. But you can go through that, or you can, if you've already watched this video, you just went through how I did it live, I guess. First time going through all this from February to March. So this is just, once again, my thought process on how to get this stuff done. Of course, it's a little bit slower because I have to explain more things, but really, this is what I do every month. Every time Epic goes, hey, look, a new build, and it has some feature that my team is like, oh, we must have that feature. So eventually, we're going to get to a point where I'm not going to be updating this every month because it's kind of annoying. But, you know, until then, this is how you do it. And I have to show you guys that because my tutorials are based on this. And I know not everyone's going to go back to the February build to do these tutorials because that would just make life too easy. So that's how you that's how you get your code to work under UDK or under the March build of UDK. Thanks for watching and happy developing.